everyone, and welcome to Amazing Women in E-Commerce Online. I'm Christina Donoso, Executive Director of AWIE and Senior Director of Brand Marketing at Yotpo. I'm so excited to have all of you here today. We have a great lineup of experts who are going to share their insights about what to expect from e-commerce in 2022. But before that, we have a huge announcement. Nominations for next year's Amazing Women honorees are officially open. Something new is that we added categories so we can include an even wider range of backgrounds into our honoree class. Our 5 categories include founders. This category celebrates the women that founded or were part of the founding team for an e-commerce brand. Rising stars. This is a category to recognize the women who are making a name for themselves by challenging the teams and company to think bigger, push harder, and offer more. Leaders. AWIE has always featured some incredible e-commerce leaders, and this category recognizes women in a leadership role who directs with a clear vision and inspires and elevates her team. Marketers. As an e-commerce marketing platform at Yotpo, we're marketers at heart. This category is our dedication to the women who are changing the game in how e-commerce brands find, grow, and engage shoppers today. And last but not least, innovators. This category honors the women who are disrupting the industry and creating a new vision for what e-commerce can be, whether that's on a big scale or in their day-to-day operations. While you're watching our event today, think about all the women you know and work with in our industry and consider giving them the props they deserve. Not everyone will become an honoree, but we've heard from so many people about how incredible it feels to get that message saying that they were nominated. Recognition plays an important role in helping to create a more equitable industry for women. And if that's not reason enough to nominate someone, Yotpo will also donate $5 to Girls Inc. for every nomination. Girls Inc. is an organization that inspires girls to be strong, smart, and bold, and they're empowering the next generation of women professionals to succeed. Last year, we raised almost $11,000 from nominations alone, and we're hoping to raise even more this year. We've worked with Girls Inc. for several years now because we truly believe in their mission, and we want all of you to share in our passions as well. So we asked one of their ambassadors to join us today to talk about how Girls Inc. impacted her life. I'm happy to introduce Monali Baker. Thanks for joining me, Monali.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Monali Baker. I'm a senior in San Antonio, Texas. I'm interested in robotics and engineering, but I'm also interested in the business side of things as well. I'm a swimmer on my school's swim team, and I also love to dance and love my creative outlets, anything to just have fun and with friends. I decided to join Girls Inc. in the summer of my 8th grade year. I'm part of their Eureka program, which is a 5-year STEM-based program, and I've gotten so many amazing opportunities. I've actually found my career path that I want to go into because of Girls Inc.
Wow. Well, did you discover anything about yourself through Girls Inc.?
I've discovered so much about myself. Before entering Girls Inc., I was really shy and quiet, and I never really liked to talk to people, but through Girls Inc., I've learned that I'm actually pretty good at public speaking despite my fears. And I've learned that no matter what I do, as long as I put hard work behind it, I know I can achieve my goals and my dreams. I've learned a lot about STEM and different STEM careers. There's so many careers out there that I didn't even know existed until I joined Girls Inc. The people are amazing, and you really become sisters with your fellow girls.
Wow. Well, Girls Inc. pairs you with a mentor, right? Like, what have you learned from your mentor?
I've learned a lot from my mentor. My mentor really helps me with my anything I need. She's always there to just help me out. And even if it's just like, hey, look, I'm really not feeling great today. It's a down day for me, and I just need that little bit of extra motivation or an extra spark. She's like, here's some motivational quotes. You got this. I know you can do it. You know you can do it, and just keep going. I mean, she's helping me with college essays right now because I'm like, I don't know what colleagues are looking for. She's helped me with that. She's helped me refine how I speak and my talking skills. She's helped me with more things than I can even remember at this point. And it's a really close relationship. She's like a sister to me as well.
That's really wonderful. Well, what are some of your goals for the future? Like, where do you want to be in 5 years?
So I am graduating high school this year. So 5 years, I'll probably still be in college, hopefully getting my second, I want to get my master's in mechanical engineering and then my MBA. And then I want to, after some years and when I can, start my own company that manufactures and develops toys, tools, and technology for special needs people to use wherever they can. And I've even kind of started that now. I've tried to code a new joystick to allow those with uncontrollable movements to use so they can do things like robotics or video games and things that you would generally find neurotypical students in that neurodivergent students would be amazing at, but don't have the opportunity to do so.
Wow, you are an inspiration to all of us. Well, why do you think Girls Inc. is so important for girls like you?
I mean, I used to be a really shy girl. I never would have taken up this type of opportunity before. And I've blossomed so much. And I want other girls to see that no matter what they do or no matter what they want to do, your dream is never big enough if you're able to put it down into steps and plan out your way to do it. And organizations such as Girls Inc. really helped me foster my inspiration, my creativity, and my imagination. I never would have thought 4 or 5 years ago when I started that I would be here now, but I am, and it's an amazing thing for me. I'm absolutely loving life.
Well, you sound amazing. I can't wait to see where you're going to do with this. And thank you so much to Girls Inc. for supporting you. And thank you for sharing your story with us. Good luck on your journey. We can't wait to see what's going to happen in the future with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope this showed why we love this organization so much. It's not just about supporting each other now, but empowering girls and creating a healthy environment for the future. Before we launch in today's programming, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors: Shopify, Verbal and Visual, Recharge, Yoda, and Gorgeous. As sponsors for this event, they made donations to Girls Inc. So just by watching this event with us today, you are helping out. Thank you again. I also want to encourage everyone to share your thoughts about today's event on social using the hashtag #WomenInEcom. And did you know, we launched an AWIE community on Slack. It's a great place to connect and network with other women in our industry, share news and job opportunities, learn about exclusive events and workshops, and just have fun. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first session, What's Next for E-Commerce in 2022, led by my Yotpo colleague and friend, Ashley Rosenthal, and featuring Laura Bradbury, Jamie Levy, and Chaz Olajide. That will be followed by a candid Q&A with Erica Ritchie Fontes from Snow Home, moderated by Caroline Dow from Verbal and Visual. Take it away, Ashley.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our panel discussion about what's next for e-commerce in 2022. I'm Ashley Rosenthal, Senior Enterprise Account Executive at Yotpo, and I'm joined by several of our amazing women: Chaz Olajide, founder at Sir Dogwood; Jamie Levy, Head of Merchant Engagement at Shopify; and Laura Bradbury, E-commerce Manager at Domu Brands. Before we dive into today's topic, could each of you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Chaz Olajide. I am the founder of Sir Dogwood. Sir Dogwood is an online pet supply shop that I launched back in 2016, and we're based in Chicago. We feature a highly curated selection of quality dogwear and accessories, basically anything you may need for your dog. And I launched it a few years ago because I wanted to show a different type of pet parent in the pet industry. Back then, the pet industry wasn't as diverse as it is now. And I wanted to kind of align the pet industry more with the recent data about the industry that suggests that pet owners of color are the most rapidly growing segment. We have several different commitments. We have a strong mission to make the pet industry more inclusive by supporting women and BIPOC-led brands. We want to amplify their voices and increase their visibility in our store, on our blog, and through all of our social media platforms. We also donate to not-for-profit pet welfare organizations that we feel strongly about, who are tackling some of the issues that we ourselves are thinking about. So things like advocating for inclusive paths to pet adoption, creating a more diverse space in which BIPOC leaders, adopters, and veterinarians can thrive. Those are some of the things that we're really thinking about in the pet space and that we love to support.
Thank you. That's amazing. As a woman of color and a happy pet owner, I will absolutely be checking that out. Love to hear that brand story. Thank you, Chaz. Jamie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Jamie Levy. I head up engagement for Shopify. I've been with Shopify for just over 4 years. I'm based in Los Angeles and have the incredible opportunity to work with some amazing women and entrepreneurs of all sizes, like Chaz and Laura. And I'm really excited to be here today.
Thanks, Jamie. And Laura?
Hi, I'm Laura. So I'm e-commerce manager at Dummy Brands. I'm based in the UK. We're based in Manchester. I've been with Dummy Brands for almost 6 years. So I head up the 2 e-commerce websites. So we currently have 2 websites, which is vonhouse.com and beautify.com. And we also have a large presence on marketplaces as well. So we predominantly sell furniture, DIY and garden essentials, and we kind of pride ourselves on being a home of really good value products for people's homes, but there's no compromise in quality. And we always put our customer at the heart of everything we do.
Thanks, Laura, and thanks all of you for those intros. Let's get right into it. So our first question today is a big one. What do you think will be the biggest change we see for e-commerce in 2022? Jamie, I'll have you start.
Sure. I think a lot of us are looking forward to 2022. One of the biggest changes that I'm anticipating is more experiential. I think a lot of brands, all brands, we've been limited in how we can test and in different ways in which to get in front of IRL customers and prospects and potential audience. And so I think, and I'm hopeful, maybe I'm projecting, that we'll see a lot more experiential activities and events. I think brands are looking for different ways to have direct conversations with their audience and to diversify channels. Laura just mentioned, marketplaces. I think a lot of brands might experiment with marketplaces while also looking for direct ways to have those conversations with their audience.
Absolutely. I love that the marketplace is coming into play a little bit more. I think so as well. Chad, can you share a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, our biggest change that we're going to see as a small business is almost more a perspective shift in changing our goal from building momentum to sustaining momentum. For us, over the past 2 years, we've seen huge growth, and we're looking towards the holiday. And I think I'm sure I'm not alone when I'm looking into forecasts and seeing that, they're looking pretty good for the end of the year and for 2022. So for us, it's really about, how are we as a small business going to change that previous goal of getting to the point where we're trying to build momentum to, okay, what do we have to do to sustain it? And that is something that I think is on our minds. How do we kind of make tweaks to make sure that the success that we're seeing now carries through to the future?
Thank you. Thank you. And Laura?
Yeah, I think again, it all relates back to the customer, but we do feel since lockdown and COVID, a lot more people have become really savvy, and they know now to like look elsewhere, on like maybe not just shop in the first place they see an item, they maybe shop around. So I think customers' expectations are probably higher than ever. So I think one of the changes we'll see is that a lot of retailers will have to start tailoring customer experience and like possibly personalize the experience more to kind of service the demand of the customers, so that you give them exactly what they want, and they don't feel that they need to go elsewhere. So that's will be the challenge, to kind of capture and retain customers by offering them like best in class experience on site.
Absolutely. Personalization is a buzzword for a reason.
Yeah.
So paid acquisition is becoming increasingly difficult for marketers. Do you think e-commerce brands will get more creative with acquisition in response, and how so? And Laura, I'll have you lead this one.
Sure. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of competition out there in the market. There's a lot of noise of everyone kind of, trying different things on social and even through paid ads. I think it's really important to stand out. I think the most important thing is before you start any campaign, is to work out what you want to achieve from it. So I think it relates back to that trend of putting the customer first. So if you get the basics right of why you want to acquire customers, then the campaign will work better. So if you're investing a lot into acquisition, I think it's good to also map out the journeys and consider all the scenarios. I think it's really important to avoid risk, instead of just spending loads of money on a really great photo shoot and posting some of the pictures out there. Have a real think about what you want to achieve from it, and then make sure you can measure the success. So from that campaign that you're going to run, is it that you want to have more signups? Do you want higher conversion? Like, what is it that you want from it? And make sure you can measure it, and then tweak the campaign if needed, and then retest. So so think about what the campaign aim is. Does the call to action of the campaign match? Does the landing page match? Is a lot of competitor activity? And how do you rank organically for searches surrounding that campaign? And then does the on-site experience facilitate the action that you want users to take from the campaign that you're promoting? So there's like possibly three commonly taken paths. So if you say paid an influencer to feature a product, and you had a CTA shop now to go to like a makeup storage box, that's great. They can go straight through. Hopefully they would check out if the stock and the experience is good on site. But then there's a second path to it. So they might post the video featuring the makeup storage box, but they might go onto Google and they might search it on there. So you need to be checking if you're ranking well organically, if there's other paid ads behind it. Are you doing any paid ads behind it? So how can a customer get to that product off of social media? And then of course the end funnel, which is have stock and checkout. And then another path to consider for that was that influencer posts it on a video, and they might come directly. But then on site, like really look into that experience. So if they search makeup storage box on site, does it come up? Maybe do you need to use synonyms? Is there like another path the customer can take? So I think it's really important to definitely consider the most common paths that customers will take from a campaign, and make sure that they are going to meet the aim of what you want to achieve from a campaign to get the most out of it.
Yeah, I love all of those ideas. Chaz, as a brand founder, I'd love to hear from your perspective as well.
Yeah, particularly since we are a small business, we have very limited budgets that we're working with. So we certainly have felt the need to be nimble when it comes to acquisition. So we're trying to kind of think creatively about, grabbing those new eyeballs and getting them over to our website. One of the things that has worked really well for us that we actually didn't plan for, we were just, knock on wood, lucky enough to have happen to us, is sort of leveraging the fact that we are a smaller business and using that status to attract the attention of larger businesses and corporations, and in turn their audiences, to try to entice the people that are following them to get them onto our site and onto our social. So that has been something that we've seen, particularly around Small Business Saturday, which is coming up in a few weeks, next month. That's been a huge platform for us to work with credit card companies, social media platforms, search engines, who really want to kind of tap into the small business kind of social element of that. And we're very happy to work with them. And we were really happy to kind of do something that didn't, cost any money on our end, but yet we could really measure the ROI with, increased follows on social media and then increased traffic to our website. So that's been really great. Another thing that we've done is we've relied a lot more on giveaways, partnering with other brands, other small brands like ourselves, who are in the doggy market, and maybe their followers haven't heard from us. So it's really easy, really low cost, just to create a giveaway, have people make sure that they tag both businesses or all 3 or 4, however many people are involved. It's a great way to get that follower number up. And again, another really easy way to see, especially if you have a discount code that people have to use to see that ROI come back on the back end. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chaz. So a lot of brands are saying that they're going to invest more heavily in retention. What tactics will we see from brands in 2022 to grow strong relationships with high LTV? And Jamie, I'll have you lead us on this one.
Sure. I think it's in direct correlation with the increasing cost of acquisition that retention just becomes more and more important. We're seeing more brands invest in community and making sure that they can continue the conversation with their audience, with their existing customers, even when it's not just to buy, that they're there for them throughout, all the time. More and more brands have been creating digital communities and opportunities for people to connect. I've seen standalone communities, also brands using Slack or Discord, and just encouraging the conversation. The investment on the brand side is on moderation and even sometimes the actual technology, if not something that's just readily available like Slack. But the return is not just they're seeing the loyalty, but they're also able to get direct insight from their customers about what they'd like to see with respect to product or the way that they're releasing something. And so I think that there are some brands that have really capitalized on that community and made sure that their audience knows that they have a voice and that they're being heard. I think the emphasis on loyalty programs and the importance of that is increasingly important. Not just with respect to retention, but just overall brand awareness. Word of mouth, as everyone knows now, is the cheapest form of acquisition. You want to empower your customers to be advocates for the brand, and so by creating more and more opportunities to celebrate the loyalty, I think brands are just seeing more of an impact, and that what they invest in retention is worth so much more than acquisition plays.
Yes, absolutely. And actually something interesting that I learned in our last Amazing Women in E-commerce a few months ago is one of our brand partners at Forever 21 was talking about loyalty to her doesn't just mean, getting your customers to be loyal. It's showing that loyalty back to the customers from brand to customer. So Chaz, Laura, I'd love to hear from, the brand perspective as well. Laura, can you tell us a little bit about how you guys are thinking about retention for next year?
Yeah, so we've actually recently taken on a platform called Immersis. So that's sort of a central marketing system, and it will allow us to see the customer life cycle and, do retargeting campaigns and post-purchase automated email series. So that's a real focus for us for the year ahead, is trying to not just have a great on-site experience, but what comes after it and how we can retain them through better content, product guides, and just making them become like a brand advocate, I think, as Jamie touched on, to really buy into the brand.
Yep, absolutely. And Chaz, can you share?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, we recently, with the help of Yotpo, launched an SMS program to help engage current customers, which has been an amazing experience, huge and hugely successful for us. So that's something I'm looking forward to continuing into 2022 as well. And then as of, I want to say a few hours ago, we launched a new chat feature for us. We're using a Tidio. And so we're still kind of in the beginning stages. So I can't really share, outcomes as of yet, but I'm really excited to be able to continue sort of increasing the level of communication that we have with our customers, because it's sort of going back to what Jamie said and piggybacking off that, it really is about, particularly with the dog community, it's about fostering that community. Everybody is super intense and they're very invested, and we want to, tap into that and make sure that we're answering everybody's questions and making them feel like they are part of that dog community.
Yes, absolutely. Proud member of the dog mom community over here. I know you are, Chaz, as well. So studies have suggested that social commerce will continue to grow and more players are getting into the game, like TikTok. What do you think will be the big trends for brands in terms of social commerce? And Chaz, I'll have you lead us off.
So I knew that social commerce was something that had increased for us between 2020 and 2021. And when I actually pulled the numbers for today's panel, I saw that our social sales have increased by almost 200% year to date, which is ridiculously huge. So clearly this is going to be a big trend for us and probably for other e-commerce brands going forward. Of course, Instagram shopping is the main source of this trend for us. It's the most important social commerce tool that we use. It's the one that we see the most traffic from. I would say 98% of our posts are shoppable. And of course, we are using the shoppable links in our Instagram stories, although I have to say that I miss swiping personally, but
agreed.
Me. I don't know how everybody else feels. So yeah, that's definitely something we're going to be carrying into 2022. I would say that user-generated content is another trend that we're seeing when it comes to social commerce. And we have been able to create a section of our website where you can shop Instagram from our homepage. So people are not only shopping from Instagram, but also from our website, which is great. And thanks to Yotpo, we've also been able to add an image functionality to our reviews. So that's amazing as well. So we can sort of boost that social proof, which is something that I think small businesses sometimes struggle with if people don't have that name recognition. So that's great as well. And then we're also laying the groundwork to launch our influencer program. So that's something I'm looking forward to for 2022 to help kind of boost product discovery and to help push those sales back from social to our website.
Awesome. Thank you. Glad that Yotpo is in there helping you with that UGC. Laura, I'd love to hear from you as well.
So yeah, I think social is obviously a huge channel for us. I think with what our audience for Beautify in particular, people do like to have the item they're thinking of purchase being social proof before they even buy it. I think Yotpo really helps us with that on site with the UGC. So we're going to be doing a lot more to encourage our customers to also add more UGC to listings by offering discount codes and things. Because we've actually done testing on product pages with a heavier amount of UGC, we can actually see that it does attribute to quite a large uplift in conversion. So yeah, I think definitely getting that sort of social approval on site will really help convert that traffic, because I think that's going to be a growing source for us. We're definitely seeing increased volumes, not just from like the major ones that we usually would see from Instagram, Facebook, but also increases from like Pinterest and things as well. So we're actually going to be doing a lot more on Pinterest as well. And obviously a lot of these social platforms are becoming more, easy to transact through. They're coming, you can shop the looks, things directly through them. So we're doing a lot more as well to kind of integrate that commerce with social.
Yep, absolutely. And don't forget, Yotpo integrates with Pinterest. So
okay, I didn't know that.
Fun fact.
Yeah, that's good.
So Jamie, I'd love to hear from you. What role do you think sustainability plays for the future of e-commerce?
I actually went down a rabbit hole on TikTok last night about there was, I guess, a sustainability influencer, if that's even a thing, that's been calling out some brands. I think over the last 18 months, 24 months, a lot of brands have been very vocal about announcing their sustainability practices and their commitment to sustainability. And not just from my own personal TikTok research, but I think that there have been some gaps that have been uncovered, and that some brands that, it's really easy to talk about how you're committing to sustainability, but it's a complete other thing to actually follow through with it. And there are some brands who just haven't been able to, cash the check that they've previously written. I don't know if that's the best way to say that. But I think ultimate transparency is so important. As consumers, there are a lot of people who are interested in the circular economy, and there are some brands that have been testing, for their customers to return, let's say clothing, for example, and then have it upcycled and resold. I think evaluating the efficiency of the way that products are produced and even delivered is going to continue to be evaluated or looked at. We became really accustomed to 24-hour shipping, same-day shipping, next-day shipping, especially here in the US. I don't know, Laura, if you have experienced the same in the UK, but there are some brands who are actually taking a look at extending the shipping time in order to have a more sustainable approach. I think, if faced with the choice, a lot of times, as consumers, we would actually be okay with waiting another 2 days if it meant, less impact on the earth. And so I think, there were a lot of companies that made these big claims, and now we're just starting to think about what's really important. And sustainability, I think, has been called into it. We've just been able to look at it with a microscope and look at the different impacts that it has, not just on the planet, but also on the ways that we use products, on the way that they're produced, on the way that how that impacts individuals and in developing countries especially. And so I think that everything will just be continued. We'll have to ask ourselves more questions. And as brands, you'll need to ask more questions about, what kind of trade-offs you're willing to make with sustainability in mind.
I know that for me personally, I'm a little bit more willing to wait, just due to the impact. I'm willing to wait 2-3 days, whatever the case may be. I think that's a really great prediction, and I hope to see it come to pass from some of my favorite brands. So last question, ladies. This has been great, but now we want to hear a little bit more from you personally. So what are some of your personal goals for 2022? Laura, I'll have you start.
Yeah, I think, after being in lockdown for most of last year, it's been nice to see a lot open up again, particularly around Manchester. A lot of events are starting to appear again. And I think over the next year, it'll be really exciting to start going out more to events and meeting more people in person, and even continuing to attend events like this with like-minded people and bounce ideas off each other. I think it's really good to learn from each other and kind of grow with each other in a way, because it all helps. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope our next panel discussion, the next Amazing Women in E-commerce, is in person, live and in person. So Chaz, I'd love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, I'm the same. Just like what Laura said, I'm very, very excited to get back and to be able to talk to my customers face to face. Months ago, I had the opportunity to sign up for a holiday pop-up, and I closed my eyes, crossed my fingers, and like paid the fee, thinking like, I'm hoping that the world will be in a position by December where this will actually happen. So, very much hoping that we'll be able to do that pop-up and continue to kind of do those in-person activations more and more going forward. And yeah, launching our influencer program, that's another big goal for us in 2020, just trying to, going back to the idea of that community, increasing the fold, as it were, of our community, and really just kind of making sure that as many people feel welcome and feel included into the Sir Dogwood community.
Thank you, Chaz. And Jamie, wrap us up.
More time with my kids, if I'm being totally honest, on a personal level. More fun, more projects. I'm trying to actually shut down my computer every night instead of just put it to sleep. And, so far in the few days that I've done it, it's had a massive impact. And so I think, just making small adjustments can have some really big, we can reap larger rewards. So yeah, more time with my kids, more hiking, shutting down my computer each night.
I think I need to take on those goals as well. Thank you for the info. Well, anyways, again, thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for all of your great insights. It was really incredible to learn from you all and get to know you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, make sure to stay tuned for our next session with Erica Ritchie-Fontes from Snow Home.
Thanks, Ashley, and hello, everyone. I'm Caroline Dow, the Director of Strategy and a partner at Verbal Plus Visual. Here at Verbal Plus Visual, we design, build, and grow e-commerce experiences for thoughtful brands. We take pride in making commerce that matters. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Erica Ritchie-Fontes, the VP of Marketing at Snow. Hi there.
Hey, Caroline.
Thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, excited to be here and chat a little bit.
Yes. Let's dive right in. I would love if you can start by just telling me a little bit about Snow.
Yeah, so Snow, right, we are all about thoughtfully designed home essentials. It all started because our founders actually were moving in together. They were newlyweds. They were trying to find something that was like a little bit better than what they'd had in their college and business school apartments, but weren't ready to go splurge for something crazy or like the fine china that's just meant to stay in the hutch. So they really couldn't find anything in the marketplace that was out there. So Snow was born out of this idea of let's go find really incredible top quality managers, develop heirloom quality designs and fantastic home goods from sheets to porcelain to decor, and really build something that was thoughtful and well curated.
I love that. And such an amazing story about their connection as well. So in your role, what are your primary goals?
Yeah, so, a lot of my day-to-day is probably a lot like a lot of people that are watching us today, really trying to acquire customers, do so profitably, and make sure that as a marketing team, we are supporting our traffic and our top line revenue goals. I'd say, right, like we are gearing up for Q4. So near and dear to our hearts are a bunch of big product launches. I think a lot of us have had to contend with some interesting supply chain issues throughout the course of this year and last year, but we're excited to be in a place where we're about to start launching a lot of newness and getting back into that cadence and really supporting new categories and new growth.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's a busy time for everyone, I'm sure, on the call. How are you managing that currently?
Honestly, it's a lot of just, preparation so that we have the ability to be flexible. I think we all know that this time of year, things can change on a daily basis, but for us, it's all about having that stake in the ground, knowing, all right, here's the ingoing strategy, here's the ingoing plan. But, when we get the new news, great, like let's go and figure out what we can change, what we can shift around. But just by virtue of having that kind of plan A, we feel a little bit more secure and less like we're being reactive all the time.
Yeah, it's critical, to make sure you also have the platform and the team to help support the pivoting, right, on a dime. Amazing. Can you speak at all about, your journey to getting to this place in your career?
Yeah, I've had a really twisty career, I think is the best way to describe it. I actually started off way back when as an attorney of all things. Yep, I was not a particularly good one, but I was a lawyer. But, I came out of undergrad, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and kind of had this nexus of, creative, good problem solver, really strong with language. Law seemed like a good fit. Ended up not being the right thing for me, but I was working in leverage finance. So I ended up doing all this due diligence on retail and the industry as e-commerce was really starting to come into vogue, and was just fascinated by it. So I kind of learned things inside out by reading all the guts of these corporate documents, and eventually made my way over to consulting to learn the business side, dip my hands and feet into a lot of different aspects of marketing, and eventually went in-house to a couple of different D2Cs prior to Snow. I was at Third Love and then at Minted. So at this point, it's funny because I came from being a lawyer and doing the financing side of these deals to being a consultant, helping a lot of larger, more old school retailers kind of flip into this new world order to kind of being part of the upstart brigade.
Amazing. It's such interesting perspective that you have, kind of seeing all angles and coming. I actually, just for maybe others on the call that have done a recent pivot into a new career, do you have any advice or what was most helpful for you when making such a big life decision?
Yeah, I think there were like two things, right? Like there is this aspect of, right, like if you're unhappy in your career, you feel like you're not succeeding, like there's typically a reason, and there's no shame in changing or moving. It doesn't make you a failure. Or I remember I was like, oh my God, I've invested so much time and energy in pursuing option X. Like, what the heck are you doing? Like it doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, if you are feeling that something is off or something isn't right, like go explore the other avenues, because worst case scenario, you come right back to where you started and you're like, actually, I'm where I was meant to be. But I think in terms of making the transition itself, what was really the most helpful was just knowing that, hey, any skill that I've learned along the way is actually going to be an asset. And there's a way that I can parlay this into my next role, and a way that I can use this, I think, to your point, to have a different point of view, or to, help me see things slightly differently. I think even today, right, like starting back to that more business-centric mindset, I'm able to really think in a P&L mindset and understand a lot of what my other business partners are going through, and see things kind of at that bird's eye level, which allows me, I think, to be a more effective partner within the organization.
Yeah, it's so important to really understand the value that you bring, even if it's not the exact skill set that maybe they're asking for on a job application, right? So I think that's really amazing and great advice. Switching back to your current life, your current day-to-day,
Yeah.
I think let's talk about a hot topic here, changes in privacy. I know a lot of brands are contending with what that's going to look like in terms of acquisition of new customers, and kind of building that base. We'd love to know about how Snow is thinking about that in the new year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's something that we all have talked about to death at this point, and I think we're all living and seeing the results. So I won't belabor some of the core points, but I think for us, a lot of this is about, all right, retargeting signals are going to be weaker. It's going to be a little bit tougher at sort of that like middle bottom of the funnel. But there are sort of like two pieces of that are interesting. The first is, right, like we need to go back to first principles a little bit as marketers and get really strong at that top of funnel, whether it's your affiliate program, whether it's your PR relationships, whether it's content, and understand why people are coming to you in the first place. And in a way that, right, like we may have all gotten a little bit lazy and been like, no, like we can actually allow these funnels to progress themselves. The algs are going to help us select the best possible customer. I think in a lot of ways, this is going to help us come back to traditional brand building that will eventually result in much stronger, longer term customer relationships that, you know, we may be missing out on today because we've gotten a little bit more dependent on direct response. But I think, you know, beyond that, with respect to just retargeting in general and how you actually get people through that bottom of the funnel, I think like you have to work a lot with whether you run your e-commerce team or you're a member of e-commerce team, work to get that conversion on the site a little bit more and bring forward some of those marketing tactics that you might otherwise have brought in, you know, in your outbound marketing channels and your retargeting funnels, really letting your site do the work and your brand to do the work of, I think like a great example is something like reviews, right? You know, a lot of us will put them in our outbound marketing, particularly when we know people have visited the site, yada, yada. But making sure that you are collecting them regularly, you're letting them show in your SEO presence and that they are loud and proud on your product description pages so that, you know, people don't have to go through multiple consideration loops and get all those extra exposures where it may be harder to go track them down.
Yeah, something that I've noticed that's, you know, the brands that are most successful in kind of making this transition in terms of understanding acquisition and changes in privacy, making sure that all the right people are at the table when considering that site experience is something I think is really important. So marketing is a big piece of that, and making sure that the econ team is integrated really closely with the marketing team, the CX teams, those sorts of things, just to ensure that everyone really is communicating and that brand presence is really shining through on all touch points. So that's, you know, it's important.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, you know, you started to just mention this at the end, right? Like the importance of having your brand carry through every single moment. It's something that can get lost. And again, I think, right, like we've seen a lot of different structures emerge in marketing, whether, you know, you have a performance team and a brand team and never the twain shall meet. And there's meant to be this sort of tension. I think it's kind of coming back to this place where like you need to wear your brand marketing hat and your performance marketing hat regularly to know like, all right, is this still going to represent who we are and be authentic to our voice and be something that is consistent for the customer all the way through? Otherwise, they're just going to lose the thread because we may get fewer bites of the apple.
Yeah, no, really, you know, to that point, I would love to hear a little bit more what it is you think connects customers to brands and maybe how loyalty or other retention methods play into that.
Yeah. So I think, right, like in terms of the brand, I think if any of you look at Snow right now, like you'll understand who we are pretty quickly. And I think it's because we invested the time at the very beginning to say, like, this is our voice and this is who we are. And this is right, like the brand book that you may be like, fine, we'll figure it out. Like, no, it actually is worthwhile to invest in doing that and regularly train people up on, hey, this is our tone and this is who we speak to and how we speak, as well as sort of having this really cohesive visual identity. I think for us, it stems from this place of, you know, really understanding the target market that we're after. I think, you know, again, like in a couple of years ago, it was much easier to be able to go out and say, okay, I'm just going to go fish for the entire universe of, let's say, women 25 plus, and we'll use the lookalike audience and we'll find who's most likely in the market using our keywords and we'll be good to go. So you can be a little bit more of everything to everyone. But I think really being tight and understanding, hey, this is who my customer likely is or who I want my customer to be or what they'll aspire to. And continuing to really lean into that is quite important. But I think to that same point, you brought up really this notion of cross-functionality beforehand with respect to sort of the site and your presence there. I think particularly when it comes to retention and loyalty, it isn't just a marketing thing, right? Like you can send as many like perfectly on brand executed emails as you want. it's going to be death by a thousand paper cuts to get your repeat rates up to sort of that next level echelon. It really becomes this study in, all right, we understand as a full company, from my merchants to my product team to my CX team, who that customer is, what we're trying to service for them, and what is most important to them, so that you can develop end-to-end programs that will enrich their experience and allow them to repeat.
Yeah. And I think that, something that we find very successful here at Verbal Plus Visual as well is asking customers, right? Like doing that testing, doing user testing, doing surveys, right? As a piece of the puzzle here, but just getting a better understanding directly from the customers, what is it that draws them to the brand? What is it that would entice them to come back? And then roll that out to scale. I mean, I think it's a piece that oftentimes due to timelines or budgets can get cut, but I think it's an important piece of the puzzle to ensure you're hearing directly from those customers.
Yeah. And I think like the thing that you bring up there is right. Like it doesn't have to be like the massive, huge brand study that goes up to the 300,000 person panel and market, right? Like it can be, we're just going to do a pulse survey to our customers and see what's happening, right? And that will give you enough information to help you make better decisions along the way.
Yeah. Data-driven decisions, right? It seems easy, but sometimes you just got to get that data. So no, we're aligned. Definitely makes a lot of sense. So switching gears a little bit, would love to hear just about goals. Personally, professionally, the end of the year is upon us, which it's pretty wild to think, but would love to hear a little bit about what you're thinking about going into 2022.
Yeah. So you can't really tell on this recording because you only see me shoulder up, but I'm actually 8 months pregnant. So I have a lot of things coming. Thank you for 2022. But a lot of what's top of mind for me, I think, with the backdrop of these personal changes that are looming for me, as well as kind of what we've been experiencing as like a collective of humanity in terms of burnout and really struggling to find work-life balance. How do we become more effective at prioritization within our lives and understand, what's actually going to bring benefit and what's actually proving my worth? And, some of this is I am a type A high achiever by nature. I want all the gold stars and like a perfect report card, and I'm well into my mid-30s. So like I need to graduate out of that mentality. But, oftentimes I've always been the person who's like, well, I'll just do this little side project and I'll just force it through sheer force of will and hopefully generate something. But I think, that doesn't set the right example for the team. And it's not the right thing for the business because you end up getting distracted by, it's not always shiny objects, but a lot of times it's like, you didn't need to spend a bunch of time and energy worrying about, this random little test over here when you knew in your heart of hearts that it wasn't going to be particularly efficacious. So I think a lot of what I'm trying to think through for next year is, all right, how do I get smarter in my prioritization and resist the temptation to sort of go on a lot of these sidetracks and really drive value for my business and my team and model that and make sure that, it gets trickled down throughout the rest of the organization.
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense. As a mother to a 2.5-year-old, prioritization is key. And to your point, burnout is real. And it's important to make sure that everyone understands the priorities and the focus of the business. And I think a lot of that is going back to really understanding the goals. I think a lot of times there's mention of a project, or we see another brand or competitor doing something and a lot of chasing. I think a lot of times you have to just go back to what is the purpose of what we're doing here? What is the really primary goal? And making sure we're making decisions based off that. So, you're about to enter a very exciting time of your life. And, I know this event, right, is focused mostly on women. So it is incredible that women are able to do so much. And, I really look forward to hearing about how that all plays out in the upcoming year.
Yeah. And, I count myself really lucky because like I've had so many great female role models who have gone through this before me. Right. And I think that that's not always the case for everyone. Like I think, you know, in pretty much every company that I've been at over the past 10 years, I've seen at least one woman become a mother in addition to, you know, being a wife, to being an incredible professional, to whatever she might be. And I think just having that example has been incredibly helpful because I see that it can be done.
Yeah.
So I do count myself lucky that way, but it does really motivate me to figure out ways to continue supporting women who don't necessarily see that all the time, who don't necessarily have that work environment. Because again, like I've been lucky that I've been in very women-centric or female-centric work environments.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's also been really interesting about what's become a very remote work environment is you kind of see into people's homes. You see into their lives in a way that was not common, right? When you went to the office, you didn't really know what was happening unless, you know, over lunch and things like that. So it is interesting to see into people's homes, see their pets, see their families. I think there's something really special about that. And I really hope that, you know, while remote might not be forever, you know, there's that humanity. I hope that continues on. We're really supporting one another and understanding that, you know, the work life, it's one aspect of a very complex human being, and that we're really supporting the whole human.
Yeah, it's, you know, I had an incredible people leader at one of my previous organizations, and he always talked a lot about bringing your human to work and how, as a manager, as being, you know, in charge of a team, that it is really important that you share details of your personal life or share your struggles or share days when you're just like, hey, I'm going to be cranky because I did not sleep all night because the dog was sick or whatever it may be, right? Like it's okay to share that because it does allow people to see like, okay, you aren't just expecting me to be the sum of my work product, or you'll understand that like I'll make it up. And it helps build some of that trust too, which I think, again, the remote work world has forced us to continue building that trust and believing that, and frankly, knowing and proving out that you can get all your work done. My team at Snow is distributed. I'm based in Miami. I have some in Brooklyn. I have some in San Francisco. And so it's something that's going to persist for us. But one thing that I think is interesting about this is, you know, a lot of people, I think, the debate's going to happen about coming back into the office. And it's really convenient to blame work remote for communication or process downfalls. And I think it's going to be something interesting to watch for, because I think people are going to think like, no, when we get back into the office, it's going to solve all of the problems and magically we're going to be this well-oiled machine and communicating perfectly again. And it's not, because those problems existed before the pandemic ever did. Any work environment I was in, there was nothing more important than focusing on building culture and team. And I find myself quite lucky that I'm at an organization where there's a huge emphasis, right? Like we are doing, you know, a team offsite. We try still and do like monthly, like random coffee chats with people to foster community, but stuff like that is critical. And it's, again, right, like I'm very curious to see what happens on both sides of this debate, because I think it's a very convenient scapegoat right now, but it's usually symptomatic, I think, of a broader problem within your organization or your team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're so lucky to work in an industry where you can do these sorts of things remote, right? And so to your point, it's finding a way to do it effectively. And that's going to be different for every organization. It totally depends on the systems you've put into place and, you know, what are the pillars of that organization and the values that you stand up for and are important to you. So yeah, I agree. I think if everyone just wants to get back into the office, there might be something else going on with communication. Yeah. How about in terms of, you know, that's a very exciting personal update. In terms of your future, you know, the future of Snow, is there any of, you know, big things coming up in 2022?
Yeah, you know, I think, right, like we're in that fun stage of company where we just have unlimited runway for growth. So a lot of what we're going to be looking at in 2022 is continuing to cement and improve our category portfolio, and really a lot of launches and bringing things to life and bringing more things to the customer. And I think there's sort of two pieces of that. One is, right, like, hey, our acquisition strategy, we're going to have to refine it and change it and think about it, because who we bring through that door may be slightly different based on some of these new things. Because we even see it within our existing portfolio, and I'm sure you've seen it with your clients as well, right? Like, different hero products or different gateways result in vastly different customer journeys down the line. So I think that's going to be a fun challenge for us to unravel. I think the next big piece, right, is we are excited about testing into onboarding new channels, right? I think diversification is something that marketers always talk about, particularly when they're in early stage startups, because, it doesn't matter how successful you were in channel A, right? There is a certain degree of risk in kind of trying to ride that forever, and consumer tastes and preferences are constantly changing. So we'll be looking at, I think, going heavier into things that have a larger video component, which we've dabbled in. We found success. So we have sort of the test case, but really going heavy there. But yeah, for the most part, it's going to be continuing to chase that growth. And I think pertinent to that, and sort of speaking through those customer journeys, starting to shape the cross-category narrative and what retention will look like in the long term, because we're kind of getting to that point of critical mass where we can say, all right, if Caroline is going to come in and buy a robe, the within 30-day purchase that makes sense are sort of these adjacencies like the candle or the diffuser or whatever it may be. What does the longer term purchase pathway look like? We haven't done all of that work yet. We've got sort of the first version, but like, as you add more products, that web gets more complicated. So I think we're going to be really digging into that.
Yeah, so exciting. It sounds like such an exciting time for Snow. For you, Erica, it's been such a pleasure chatting. I think this has been a really meaningful conversation, and hopefully everyone listening feels the same way. So really, really appreciate the time and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. It was really wonderful chatting with you today. And I really appreciate the thought-provoking discussion.
Thank you, Caroline. We are grateful to all of our amazing speakers and attendees for joining us today for this wonderful event. But a special thank you to Yotpo and our event partners, Shopify, Verbal and Visual, Recharge, Yoda, and Gorgeous. We will, of course, be sending out a full recording of today's event via email, so stay tuned for that. We'll also be sending out an email asking you to rate today's event and share your feedback. We would greatly appreciate it if you could take a few minutes to fill it out. It'll help us continue to bring you the best speakers and cover the most relevant topics possible. And remember, if you want to continue the conversation online, please join us at our AWIE community on Slack. Visit womeninecom.com to find the link to join. Thank you again, and see you at our next event.